があるとマイクみたいになりたい。でも電話してくれない。オークランドとブックレンドから世界チャンピオンバーチャルプローズ始まるよ。バーチャルプローズ。
To my motherfucking man, 50 grand, the alcoholic man, inject a tall can in his bloodstream if he can. Biggie Smalls, the 50 stroker, MC provoker, chocolate tie smoker. Huh? I like to max and Maximas and Acuras. Your girl butt cheeks, I'm smacking. Huh? The raw rapper, spine snapper with the little, cause all my lap a shot, the ball, I ain't your fucking comforter. And if I ever fall in love, I bet I'm fucking her. Ask the if I didn't choke her, if she try to front.
Episode 89 of That World Champion Sound Virtual Pros Podcast. My name is Al, aka Henny Omega, aka the Bandman, aka Buja Nagata, aka Dr. Keith Drapinski, aka Two Phone Scorpio, aka Super Brazy, aka Pete Gas Break Dip Dip, aka No Speak Broke Boy, Kami Shinsuke, Stack a Mill Up, and with me, one half of the Holy Scheming Army, one half of Blemolition, one half of the Heavenly Thotties, one half of the Bread Hunters, my main oos, Mike.
Hey, what's up, motherfuckers? It's Mike, a.k.a. Nick Glockwinkle, a.k.a. Takayaki Hanma, a.k.a. Dr. Swagner Jr., a.k.a. Wavy Boy Smith.
Today's topic, the 2019 Midyear Report Card. Mike and Al get their Dean Douglas and Matt Stryker on and hand out these grades and fades to all things pro wrestling. Hit us on Twitter and Instagram at VRTL Pros. Hit us on SoundCloud. Hit that heart. You know I like it. Hit us on iTunes. Leave a 5-star review and subscribe if you haven't already. Hit us on Spotify. And if you want to participate, email us at virtualpros64@gmail.com. I'm sorry, Cheap Pop, but we got a grip of emails. Mike, you mind starting off with that first one?
Sure. We actually don't have a grip of emails.
I know. I just wanted to give Cheap Pop a hard time. This guy fucking hates emails.
Yeah. The first one is from Joe Spostu, the famous independent wrestling announcer, commentator, whatever you want to call him.
Look at us.
It's debuts. He says, "Yo, Alan, Mike, good show all around. At your behest, I'm stopping my re-listen of past shows just to share some of my favorite WWF debuts. Keep in mind, I'm old. Ric Flair in WWF. I was shocked when I saw Bobby Heenan bring out the big gold belt at the end of an episode of Challenge, let alone Gorilla in the Anvil. Knew it was the NWA title. Then for a month, the brain would taunt us with the man who held the belt was coming to the WWF to challenge the Hulkster. I remember a few early times they never said the name Ric Flair, making me now think he may have gotten a name change. Then finally, the big day, the Nature Boy Ric Flair makes his first WWF TV appearance on an episode of Primetime Wrestling. The ones in front of a live studio audience. Felt kind of flat. Lex Luger in WWF. No, not the 1993 Royal Rumble debut as the Narcissist with Bobby Heenan verbally jizzing all over him. The one from WrestleMania 8 as a member of the WBF with Bobby Heenan verbally jizzing all over him. Bobby asks Lex to take off his shirt. Lex briefly relents, saying he's 15 minutes off of eating a Snickers and gives the brain what he wants. Steve Austin, ECW. The future Stone Cold's first appearance on ECW TV was in the background of a backstage pull-apart brawl between Public Enemy and the Gangstas, doing a Hulk Hogan impression. Next time was the famous Monday NyQuil deal getting better. Next, a live promo filmed in front of the Mutants at the ECW arena that never made air. Then finally, the infamous sit-down promo where he tells us he's going to be a superstar he always knew he could be. Keep up the good work, and ECW Mutant for life, Joe. For whatever reason, I am also old like Joe, and I knew Ric Flair was coming to WWF. I guess I just had the insider knowledge back then. But I think it was from reading the National, but I can't remember, but I knew it was happening, so... I guess I was a little smart mark, as they would say back then.
Didn't they also do like the Japanese porn mosaic on that title too?
Yeah, they did.
That was so fucking weird when I was a kid. I was like, why are they censoring that shit out? It's not bloody or anything.
Also, when Lex Luger did the WBF, I was still young enough where I was like, oh, maybe I have to like bodybuilding now, because I was like, I love wrestling and they're making a bodybuilding league, so... Because I don't know if you remember all those other kinds of shows they would put on Saturday mornings with wrestling. Like there was the Monster Truck show for a little while. Then there was that one show with Bruce Lee's daughter It was something Masters, like Dragon Masters or something, where it was like fake martial arts. Yeah. So
what is that shit called? It's gonna kill me.
Yeah, it was something Masters. But yeah, like they put all those shows. So I was like, I guess bodybuilding's the new thing I have to like as a kid, and so I'm very glad that only lasted a very short time. I would have probably been a pretty weird dude. So
that'd have been sweet if we started a bodybuilding podcast. We don't want to read this hair expert email, do we?
No, we got some spam email for it. Just said hair expert, and it's usually when you get a spam email, it has a noticeable name, but this is a normal name. It just is from Andy Straight, and it says, "Hey, I love your hair content on Twitter."
I don't think it's spam, dude. I think this is a real legit like influencer email.
I guess so. I just think it has to be from us talking about sniffing hair all the time on Twitter. That's the only reason, because that's the only time we talk about hair, really. So
hell yeah. Next email is from DC, titled Kenny Nomega. DC here, aka Great White Shark Boy, aka Mikey Hemprek, aka Ultimo Dragonfly Jones. 1. Am I tripping, or does Kenny Omega lose 75% of his luster when he wrestles outside of Japan? I am not sure what it is, but he feels so regular when he isn't competing for New Japanese. 2. I am already sick of AEW dudes and how they honestly believe that company is in competition with WWE. Shouldn't they find a way to surpass NXT first before they start barking up the biggest tree? 3. Mike, in your honest opinion, what makes a perfect parent? One's pretty easy to answer. He's not wrestling like New Japan dudes. I mean,
he's only had one match.
That too. It's like, I can't get that geeked when he's wrestling Jericho, where he could be wrestling like Ishii or Okada or any of those guys. So that might be it. Secondly, they're in competition, DC. Sorry to burst the bubble. Mike, that question's for you. The last one.
Yeah. I don't have any children, and I don't have a dad, and I just have like a mom who was like very young when she had me. So I have no idea what a perfect parent is, because I've never met one. So I cannot answer your question, unfortunately.
DC has the best questions for you, dude. Just start a podcast with that guy.
Next up is from Nora. It says, regarding Vrtl number 88, which was our last episode. Hey fellas, I'm halfway through the episode and I figured I'd send this email before I forget. Mike, I'm bummed you didn't find Chikara to be enjoyable because I liked what I watched via IWTV. I do agree that the crowd was light and the storyline was more of a distraction. I too was surprised at how quickly Quack was off the show. Anyway, here's why I'm sending this. I got a picture of Dasher Hatfield's face. Oddly enough, my daughter, who doesn't particularly care for wrestling, enjoyed this match. The intermission match for the stream was Mox versus Gage, stark contrast from Thursday's Mox and Trunks. I think that, also Al, to answer the question, it's not that cold in November here, so come on out. See one or both of you in Dallas. Nora, aka, I don't have any clever names, so a friend of the show. I didn't hate Chikara. I just think they can work on their social media a little better. If they're gonna be really story driven, they should, maybe it's just because I'm spoiled and I just only look at Twitter for information, but, I don't want to have to follow 8 million different things to figure out independent wrestling storylines. So just put it on Twitter. Just put it on Twitter. It's also very weird that they would show that, because it's independent wrestling TV that shows the halftime shows on the stuff. So it's very weird that they would show this weird death match as the halftime show for Chikara. And she sent the photo of Dasher Hatfield. So now I know what he looks like. He looks like a dude who, probably is a wrestler. So case closed.
My big wrestling trip, aside from Japan in January, was to go to Toronto to watch NXT. But after seeing that display of fandom, after Kevin Durant fucking shredded his leg, I don't think Toronto looks very friendly. So I might go to Chicago in November. Also, I will be in Dallas next month for the G1. Mike's going to be there too for HowdyCon, no doubt about it.
Yeah, sure.
Next email is from Daniel.
It's the last one too. That's it.
Damn, G-Pop is fucking pumping his fist right now. Titled Shakespeare. Hey guys, for Al, that Styles P-bar from the last email is real. I didn't listen to it yet, but I'll take your word for it. One of my weirder finds via the Wrestling Observer site has been an ex-WCW publicist that is writing a quote-unquote Shakespearean play about the Montreal Screwjob. Bless his heart, but holy moly, this sounds terribly written. There's a soliloquy for the play's Vince McMahon stand-in that is so cringeworthy, you should make a Patreon-only bonus to recite it on air. So, is there a wrestling event that you could think would make good theater? Is there an aspect of wrestling that you think could be incorporated as high art? And if so, how would you do it? Peace. Daniel, a.k.a. William Shakespeare, a.k.a. the Moliere of Hair vs. Hair, a.k.a. Pretty Deece Tony Award winner. I would love like a dramatic reading of the Vince McMahon tell Sabu to fuck Sabu phone call. That'd be sick. Hana Kimura, she dropped a gravure. I would like to see that at Art Basel. I think that could work out as well. How about you, Mike?
First update, the show was called WMAC Masters. So it was basically just called Masters because I don't think anybody said WMAC, which was their fake martial arts committee. As far as the Shakespeare thing, that kind of ties into the last email because I think the week after I went to go see Chikara, or maybe it was even the day after, they did some kind of Shakespeare influenced wrestling show, which sounds like fucking torture, but they did it, so that's a thing. As far as me wanting to see something theatrical, I don't know. I think Lucha Libre lends itself to art and stuff like that, so something Lucha Libre-esque, I guess, would be like the safest bet. And plus, you know, they do the flips and they're very graceful. So I think that lends itself to some sort of live theatrical event.
If you want to participate, email us at virtualpros64@gmail.com. Got some two-man scramble. I got some topics. So, the Super J Cup 2019 was announced. Bay Area, I know you listen. If you're going, let me know and let's get wavy at the Serramonte Mall. But Mike, if you could plan the final match, what are you going with?
Oh man, I don't know what everybody's getting their hopes up for this tournament for. It's just gonna be dudes white dudes you've never heard of. It's gonna be like Biff Stevens versus I don't even know. Like they'll put like El Phantasmo or something in it, and you'll just be like, I guess El Phantasmo's gonna win. I don't know if anybody remembers the last Super J Cup, but it wasn't exactly star-studded, so I don't imagine them going a million miles away from Japan, where they've notoriously kind of cinched on certain events, especially ROH and that other New Japan in America show or tour, whatever you want to call it. So I don't have any high hopes for the Super J Cup. I mean, there's enough really great juniors out there that aren't signed to anything yet. So I'm hoping they pick more of them and not just dudes that are local to California that are lighter on weight. But I can't pick a final. I doubt it's going to be enough juniors from New Japan to even predict a final. And I would assume Jushin Liger's going to put himself in the final. So that's half of it at least.
This fucking wet blanket, man. I will say that the last J Cup had a guy named Kaiji Tomato. I was meaning to peep that guy's fucking discography, but that never happened. If you're a big Kaiji Tomato guy, please write into me. I'd like to peep this guy's work. I have high hopes. It's going to be Shingo and fucking Time Bomb in the finals, and I'm real pumped about it, dude. I'm not letting Mike ruin my time.
Yeah, don't hold your breath on that.
Next topic, kind of a two-parter. Stardom chat. Hopefully this can be a permanent segment on the two-man scrambles. But last week, the Wrestlers aired an episode focused on Stardom, hosted by a friend of the show, Damian Abraham. And to me, this episode was a highly recommended watch. You know, they go into detail on the backstories of Jungle Kiona, Mayu Iwatani, Chris Wolf. And you know what? You know, stealing a line from Degrassi, they fucking go there. With regards to how some people feel about middle-aged dudes buying gifts for minors, which leads to a pretty eye-opening section with Rossi Ogawa. With that said, if you got to pick another Stardom wrestler to highlight in this episode and an extended version of this episode, who are you going with?
Man, I don't know. This whole thing really opened my eyes. So I think the weekend before was the GCW Tournament of Survival where G. Raver knocked himself out and they just shined a camera on him for 25 seconds where he was just still on the floor like as if he was dead. Oh, and I felt pretty awful for about 20 minutes after that. I was just like, man, I almost saw a man die like on TV. That is wild. I felt more awful about the Stardom show probably for 2 days. So I felt Because I guess it's not that I'm optimistic. I just don't, I don't think like, the younger people think these days, because they fucking they overanalyze everything, and they just want to pinpoint like the most horrible things with entertainment. And I just never think about that. I just think like entertainment is entertainment. I separate it from real life problems. And, so I did not know like that Mayu Iwatani had this dark past, and I was like, I felt really bummed. And it's like, it doesn't ever, the episode never really blatantly says it, but it's kind of hinting towards how this one man, Rossi Ogawa, kind of controls these women, and he's kind of like their pimp, basically. And it makes you look at wrestling at least Stardom, it makes you look at it in a different light. And I did feel pretty awful about it for a couple days. I think Chris Wolf, no, even her kind of segment was a little dark too. So yeah, all 3 segments were pretty dark. It's kind of wild that I guess they had enough autonomy to do that, but I guess it's Japan, and they're probably like me, and they probably don't think that hard about this stuff. So it's not like a WWE where they would be like, we have final say and you can't show this shit because it makes us look awful. Not saying it makes Stardom look awful, but it does definitely kind of, it puts a light on the darker side of the wrestling business, I think. At least like the seedier side. And, that's why, I don't know, it's just like I'm just like spitballing stuff out here, but I mean, that's why when people get in a huff because they find out that a wrestler may have done drugs or is maybe an immoral person in real life, it's like everybody involved in wrestling is a fucked up individual. It's kind of a insane art form to get into and be good at and excel at. So you have to be at least a little fucked up and broken. So I guess I never really expected it from Stardom because they're so cheerful, and I guess maybe that's a bad stereotype that I'm putting on them, but I was just like, I felt really awful after that. I'm over it now, but I think I honestly don't want to see, I don't want to see anybody profile anymore because it's not like Mayu Iwatani or Azumi or Chris Wolf are ruined for me, but now I'm on the level of thinking they all have some kind of dark, horrible past, and that's horrible to think about.
Yeah, the Azumi part was definitely eye-opening. It sounds like she has a show mom, for one, and that's always kind of like a fucked up lifestyle to me. But for those that don't have Viceland, the part I'm talking about is Rossi Ogawa essentially being like, he just sounded really cutthroat about his money. He was talking about how, he was saying, look at Azumi. She's 14, but she has an old face. Starlight Kid, she gets 10 times the sales. It's because she knows how to act like a kid. And I'm like, fuck, dude. This is such a nefarious way to make money. And, it does give me some internal conflict to watch Stardom. The matches are generally really good, but the head person, that guy's about his money, man, in some pretty crazy ways. And so if you do get a chance to watch this, I do recommend it just to see the inner workings of pro wrestling and how kind of fucked up it is.
But if you are a person that bitches about everything, please don't watch this because you're just going to bitch, and I don't want to hear it.
My second piece of Stardom news, which is a little more cheerier, I promise. The Stardom Twitter account, they're teasing that there's going to be a Stardom roster pack for Fire Pro, which has me pretty pumped for multiple reasons, but namely because we might get a taunt animation for the Oedo Tai dance. Mike, I want you to rank these hypothetical DLC roster packs in order from best to worst. 1, the GCW roster pack with the Game Changer World venue. 2, 93 to 97 Michinoku Pro with the school gymnasium arena, basketball hoops and all. 3, Stone Cold ET and Borat with official voiceovers by Stone Cold Steve Austin and Sacha Baron Cohen with a White Castle parking lot stage.
First off, I just want to be a wet blanket again and say Al is really clickbaiting this headline here, and that Ringside News website that always has some kind of clickbait headline. They're just they said they were voicing something for a video game. They didn't say Fire Pro. I don't know if Al knows this, but they make thousands of video games in Japan. So this could be for fucking anything.
What?
It could be for the next Yakuza. You don't know. Who knows what it's for?
It's for, oh my god, it's for Fire Pro, dude.
If it's for Fire Pro, I'll be pumped.
Yes.
Because, they're, even just because it'll open a bunch of like new parts, creator wrestler parts, and they're kind of lacking on the women wrestler parts as it is. So that would be cool if it is Stardom. I'm not getting my hopes up, but as far as what I would like to see, I think for the most part they keep a lot of the old parts in there. So I think a lot of Michinoku Pro's already covered. So I wouldn't do that. I've already made Stone Cold ET and Borat, so I don't really need that. Although ET, it's my version of Stone Cold ET, which I've never made public because it's not good enough. But it's hard to make the ET face, so it would be cool if they added the ET part in there. So I would have to go with GCW just because I do miss that old venue they had in Fire Pro Returns that looked shittier for hardcore matches. Yeah. And I would like a newer, shittier venue. So because even they don't, there's no real venue differences anymore. They all kind of look the same. So at least in size. So I definitely want a smaller venue.
I just really want a Rasi Ogawa fucking accurate moveset guy in Fire Pro. That'd be sick. Like fedora and all, belt buckle and all. That'd be sick. That's what I want the most. My last topic of the night. So, Mike, you're a seasoned internet vet, and you've seen some pretty wild fanboy wars throughout your campaign on the internet. And with AEW launching and Cody firing shots at the New York office with that new t-shirt of his, I'm reminded that there's some pretty, like, high-level dorkery still with, like, fanboy wars. However, my question is, what's your all-time favorite internet fanboy war?
I'm still really into PS4 versus Xbox. I think that's like a futile effort, but I get it. I get why you would be like that. DC and Marvel's stupid. Yeah, I guess I would have to go with PS4 versus Xbox because it's never going to die. And I mean, just for the record, I'm team PS4 all the way. Sony versus Microsoft, I should say, not PS4 versus Xbox. But, yeah, and it's just like one of those things where people do get irrationally upset over it. And it's just like, dude, it's video games and you could buy them both. You don't even need to decide. And that's kind of how the deal is with wrestling too. You don't even have to spend as much, you don't even have to invest as much money into wrestling. You're at least investing money into Microsoft and Sony, but yeah, I don't know.
I was going to say, like, Xbox versus GameCube was classic just because all the Xbox guys would just be like, Halo. And GameCube people couldn't really say shit. They're like, Super Monkey Ball is good. That was really embarrassing. But iPhone versus Android's, like, always funny. That's one of my favorites as well. A lot of green bubble versus blue bubble, like, shit talk. I think my favorite, though, the most embarrassing, had to have been Blu-ray versus HD DVD. Like, what was that fucking feud all about anyway? Fucking movies? What was that shit all about? So I always thought that was by far the most embarrassing. That was my last two-man scramble topic.
Okay, well, I'm very surprised Elle didn't bring it up, so I had it as kind of a backup topic, so I guess we can talk about it. Dominion just happened last weekend, and it's probably the first full New Japan card I've watched since Wrestle Kingdom. And it was very good, and I just wanted to get Al's thoughts. My thoughts were everything from Ishii and Taichi on was pretty great. Actually, I'm not gonna lie, I fast forwarded right past that tag team match because I do not like GOD. There's nothing they're gonna ever do to make me like them, so I just fast forward right past that. But I thought so. I didn't see every single Will Ospreay Best of Super Juniors match. And I think his match versus Dragon Lee on this card was probably, out of that and all the Best of Super Juniors, I feel like people like this one the least out of all the notable matches. But since I didn't see all of them, and I am in the very small minority where I didn't really think that Shingo Ospreay match was like really blew my dick back that much because it was just 75 near falls, and that kind of wears thin. And I don't know, I just really like that Dragon Lee Will Ospreay match. I thought it had the perfect amount of almost trying to kill yourself, and it wasn't 48 minutes long. And I don't know. I thought that was really, really good. That's one of the best matches I've seen this year for sure. And then right after that was Ibushi and Naito, and it had a very controversial spot in it where people are going to cancel New Japan now because this man who is known for being a fucking insane maniac and is celebrated for being an insane maniac. Like, oh, Ibushi's so cool. I'm going to write fan fiction about him because he does all this cool stuff. And then, what do you know? He tries to break his own neck. What were you fucking expecting? Like, you knew this was coming at some point. The dude is a maniac. That's his whole deal. That's why you like him. So calm the fuck down. But I don't think he didn't do that on purpose. I think he was trying to land on his shoulder or something. He wasn't really trying to break his neck. That'd be ridiculous. But it was very good outside of that. It was two dudes who were just very into really putting a hurting on themselves. So that was pretty cool. And the Okada Jericho match was pretty good too. The ending was real shitty. Not what the ending was, but it was just executed very badly and it looked like an episode of Raw or something. And I never want to say that about an Okada match. So the ending was kind of bad. And I think, the whole Jericho being in the main event of major promotions thing is getting a little stale now, and maybe he should be bumped down the card because he is really just kind of an older man. And, he had surprisingly really good matches, but I think it's time to put those matches a little farther down on the card. So either way, this has made me, there's a Jon Moxley match, where he did like a jobber squash match in New Japan, which was pretty weird. But yeah, this has made me, and of course Kenta too, but yeah, this has made me pretty pumped for G1. I'm probably just gonna go on cruise control until G1 starts, but, what did you think of Dominion, Al?
Before I forget, you're wrong. Shingo versus Will Ospreay is way better than the Dragon Lee versus Ospreay
like I
match.
said,
Come
I
on,
know.
man. You're tripping.
There was just too many near falls. I don't know.
Yeah, I made this a point to watch live with my brother and friend Carr. He brought me a can of Bang, Purple Haze. So I watched this entire 4-hour card just with like Cosmic Brain. So I was really honed in. Overall, it was a great show. The G1 announcements had me pretty fired up. Kenta coming out was sick, even though it was on Masawa Day, that fucking Judas. Yeah, the Ibushi Naito match, I wasn't shocked. I don't think he did it on purpose either, but I mean, yeah, the level of violence, like that's what the feud's all about. And so the safety officers were definitely in full effect after the show. Main event, I was kind of lukewarm on. But yeah, just the surprises, the matches, I thought overall worth a watch for sure. I think the vibe is back with New Japan for sure.
Yeah. My next one is Wavy Boy Smith from YouTube. He spells the name without an E. He finally reached out to us and he granted my wish. He uploaded the Tiger Mask 4, I guess now just known as Tiger Mask versus Tomohiro Ishii Mask versus Hair match from 2011. I've been asking for this match. He finally listened to that episode and said, hey, here you go. Unfortunately, it got taken down in like 2 days, or else it would have been my mixtape match today. But
damn.
It got taken down, but I knew there was a high chance of it getting taken down, so I watched it immediately. So I did get to see it. It's, I don't want to say underwhelming, but I could see why there's no rush for New Japan to put this match on their network, because it's just kind of a match. It's really crazy. Like, if you look at the card, it happens at Fantastica Mania 2011. And if you look at the card, it's pretty far down on the card. It's not even like a main event or anything. It's kind of just a standard match. It's not like a blood feud. They just, I mean, I guess they're supposed to hate each other. And Ishii starts it off by stalling, like an old Larry Zbyszko or something, which is kind of weird. He's a real dickhead here. He's stalling for a really long time. But it has a little kind of feudy stuff in it, but it's still pretty. It looks like they're like, yo, you got 10 to 15 minutes and that's it. So that's all you got. You can't, this is no 45-minute New Japan epic, that's for sure. And, it kind of ends and Ishii loses, and, they have kind of a weak ass head shaving. Also, a little trivia note, you could see a young, Hiromu Takahashi holding Ishii down when he's getting his head shaved. But even the head shave is like, they do like one zip and then he's out of there. So, I would really like to know, Chris Charlton, if you're listening, since you are, the English-speaking historian of New Japan, I want to know why the fuck this match happened, because it's real weird still. This answered no questions to me. Ishii had this pretty perfect head of hair. It didn't look like it was balding, and he lost this match, and he got it shaved off, and he does look a little more badass with a shaved head, but it's still a mystery. Al, you didn't get to watch it, did you?
No, I'm fucking sad. I did have 2 questions though. Well, you answered one of them. I was gonna ask if he was like in the middle of being bald, or like was he having that like pushback hairline? It doesn't sound like he was.
You could tell, he has like a little bit of a widow's peak, but there's many wrestlers that hold on to that hair a lot longer than Ishii gave his up for. So I don't know. Maybe he was really self-conscious about it. I mean, I always say if I ever had like even like the hint of going bald, I would just probably shave my head immediately. So maybe he has that kind of mindset.
My real question though is that if he decides to grow that shit back out, do you think he's breaking through that glass ceiling?
I don't know, because now it's probably a little graying, so it's probably not. But I mean, he's getting up there. He's gonna have to retire soon. He might as well try it.
I agree, man. Like a nice, like spiked gray hair fade. It's not a bad look.
Lastly, and this is just kind of a ridiculous thing, but I had an idea for WWE. They're hurting in the ratings. They're setting records for low ratings. Because if you guys don't watch WWE, it's real bad. It's they're not even trying anymore. It's just like this real terrible show. And but every once in a while, you are reminded that they have at least 400 people on their roster. They'll have like that. They're doing that 24/7 belt now, and it's just a bunch of people running around. And I had to ask on Twitter who one of the guys was, and it was Eric Young, and I forgot he was even a guy. And that 50-man battle royal they did in Saudi Arabia had a lot of non-familiar faces, like just like I can't believe Mike Kanellis is still a WWE wrestler. There's just people all over the place. Some guy won it I've never heard of. Imagine that. Imagine a time in our lives when a guy that you've never heard of won a major WWE event. That's wild. So they're not going to get any better. I don't think. I don't think they're going to. They have any kind of goal they're trying to set forth to get better. So I had this wild idea. You guys got to hear me out. So a long time ago when I was very little, DC Comics did this thing called Crisis on the Infinite Earths. If you're younger, you might not know what this is, but it was like one of the first really huge crossover things, much like the Avengers movie. But it was a million years ago. And the whole deal with it was DC was trying to like fix their continuity and like all their little loopholes, because there's like several different Flashes, and just like their timeline was all fucked up. So basically what happened was there was like, 3 different Supermen and 5 different Flashes. It's just like all this crazy shit was going on because they were in alternate dimensions. And I think that's what WWE should do. I think they should take all these guys. Let's be honest, there's about maybe 10 people in WWE that anybody gives a shit about, and they have 390 more. Just take those 10 people, make 3 Seth Rollinses, and have them fight to see who's the ultimate Seth Rollins. Make 4 Roman Reigns. Do that. Make 2 Becky Lynches. Just do this crazy shit. And it would work for like 6 months. The comic books did this. When Superman died, they came out with 4 new Supermans. So they did the same thing with fucking Spider-Man. They sorted it with Batman. I mean, that was 20 years ago. WWE loves shit from 20 years ago, though. So I don't know. Try it now, WWE. Just take Pretty D's Tony Nese, make him second Seth Rollins. I'm trying to think of other people like similar likenesses. Chad Gable looks like Chad Gable looks like young Bobby Roode, and it could be like, oh, I'm you from the past. I'm you from 1972, Bobby Roode. They could just have this wild like Crisis of the Infinite Earth storyline in WWE. What else are they gonna fucking do? They like no one's watching, so just do it.
I might have dreamt this, dude, but I feel like there was discussions of making Roman Reigns the new Undertaker. Vertbags, did I imagine this? Write into me, because I swear to God, they were talking about having Roman be the dead man.
Dude, so I was just bitching about people who like take things way too seriously and try and find the nitpicky shit and everything. I still think those people are way better than the people who are like so bottom feeder WWE fans and like seeing their opinions on shit online. That is just the dirt worst. But so anytime any sort of kind of dark character gets like any sliver of popularity, it's like, oh, have him beat the Undertaker so he could be the new Undertaker. And it's like, dude, that guy was like kind of corny when I was a little kid. Like it was cool, but it was also kind of like, oh, like he's spooky. He shoots lightning. Like no, it was kind of silly. I don't want anybody to be the new Undertaker, but there are still people out there, a lot of meatballs out there that are still like, oh, Aleister Black, he's like the new Undertaker. Just have him beat the Undertaker. Bray Wyatt, he's like the new Undertaker. It's like, no, man, that shit's corny, but that's how it is. So yeah, I do not doubt that there was some kind of let's make Roman Reigns the new Undertaker. I do not doubt it.
You gotta have fucking Otis Dozovich be the new Bray Wyatt, dude. That's what I'm fucking rooting for. That'd be the fucking best.
See, there you go. That's perfect. You'd be like, I'm you. Like, I just got really into weightlifting on my planet.
Dude, AEW, if this happens, fucking pack that shit up, dude. I'm back on that New York office train. Listen to us. Listen to Virtual Pros. Up next, today's topic, the 2019 Midyear Report. Mike and Al get their Dean Douglas and Matt Stryker on and hand out these grades and fades to all things pro wrestling. Please stay tuned. With Virtual Pros, episode 89. Today's topic, the 2019 Midyear Report. I feel like this has been a pretty good segment. We've only done one of them, and I think that's one of the best episodes we've done. So, hey, why not dip into the well a second time? So, for those that didn't listen last year, we do a best and worst section where we give our best and worst for 4 or 5 topics that we picked out, and then we give letter grades to federations, and other assorted wrestling related items. So we'll start off with best and worst. It's kind of a hot start here. Best match of the year, worst match of the year. Should we just go worst then best or what? What do you think?
Yeah, sure, whatever.
Okay. Worst match of the year so far. Triple H versus Batista, WrestleMania. If you want to talk about New Japan being long-winded, I felt like this match was like 2.5 hours. I felt like the card was like really like well paced. And then all of a sudden this happened. I will give credit to the nose torture, part of this match, but overall, this really like put a damper on my WrestleMania watching this year. What'd you have?
Oh, for worst? So I was kind of leaning on the very recent Goldberg versus Undertaker match. But there's a contingent online that's like, no, that match is like one of the greatest matches this year. And I could see their viewpoint because it was very violent, not on purpose, but because these old men were in 100+ degree heat, trying to do young man moves and almost literally killing each other. But I don't personally find that a good trait. So I was like, I fucking hate this match. But then I thought a little deeper, and much on the same wavelength as Al, but a different match. I'm going to go with the Matt Taven versus Jay Lethal ladder match from the ROH New Japan MSG show. And not because of the technical work of the match, but it's real hard to make a ladder match boring. And they did it, and it was like 42 minutes long. And it contains a man named Matt Taven, which, no disrespect to him, but there are many times I'm scrolling through Twitter, and there's a picture of him, and I'm like, I gotta look up who it is. And he just has one of those faces that I do not remember. So he's just like, he's kind of like a guy to me. And I just remember, like, yo, when is this match going to end? This match is so long and it's not good. And it like postponed Joey Janela's spring break, which I was going to, when I just had to sit there for 45 minutes because of it. So yeah, I really personally do not like this match. It was my worst match of the year.
Wait, wasn't Marty Scurll in that match too? Wasn't it a 3-way?
Was he? Oh yeah, you're right. He was in that. Sorry for not giving Marty Scurll credit. He was in that match. He was kind of there. But yeah, so sorry, Marty Scurll, you get the worst match of the year, the half year too.
God damn. Best matches, some notable mentions. Sho versus Shingo, night 1 of Best of Super Juniors. Love that shit. Jungle Kiona versus Momo Watanabe, Stardom, 3/3/2019. Don't cancel me, Twitter. It's fine. They're of age. And, might be biased, but I think everyone liked this match. Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Kenny Omega, Wrestle Kingdom, 1/4/2019. That shit felt like a lifetime ago, but live, it had to have been one of the best matches I've ever seen. But I alluded to it earlier. The best match so far of 2019 to me is Will Ospreay versus Shingo, finals of BOSJ 2019. I would watch an hour of this. This match was fucking incredible. I know Mike didn't like the near fall spamming towards the end, but I was on the edge of my seat. I loved it.
Yeah, I almost went with Will Ospreay Dragon Lee, even though I know I should just watch the rest of those matches. Because I'm sure the Bandito match is really good. I didn't watch that yet. So I went with what is most likely going to be my live match of the year. And it's my match of the half year. And that is a little of a surprise, but it's Josh Bishop versus Dominic Garrini from Submit or Surrender from AIW on WrestleMania weekend. Huh. I was there live, and I mean, they just talked about it on the AIW podcast, but I don't think anybody was really expecting anything out of that match, and it was just fucking wild, and it kind of made both of those guys. And seeing it live and the level of drunkenness I was pretty perfect. So I know it's definitely going to win my live match of the year unless something real crazy happens, but it's definitely at least my match of the year so far.
Next up, the best and worst wrestler. The worst. Man, I used to love this fucking guy when I was in high school, and now it's the other way around, and that's Shane McMahon. I am fucking sick of seeing Shane McMahon on TV. He gets so much TV time. He's beating Roman Reigns out here. It's disgusting. But really the worst wrestler so far of 2019 is Baron Corbin. Probably for the same reasons, but he's not as entertaining as Shane McMahon. So Baron Corbin, you're the worst to me.
Mine are the exact opposite of Al's. Baron Corbin is my runner-up because it's like anytime I see him on TV, I get sad to think about how many people came up from NXT that are actually like really good and entertaining, and they chose Baron Corbin to be the guy no one's ever liked. This whole career, no one's ever liked this guy, and so they made him the guy. But Shane McMahon is there's no worse person on any television of wrestling right now. No one. You wonder, he's like one of the reasons I think their ratings are so bad, because when my girlfriend comes in or sees like wrestling and Shane McMahon comes on, she gets so upset because she's like, that guy doesn't even look like a fucking wrestler. He's just like an old man and he's bad at it. And he's just so shitty. It's almost to the point where you think it's on purpose. Like, if there's some kind of Vince Russo-esque kind of like conspiracy theory where like, oh, they're trying to close down WWE, so they're doing all this bad stuff like making Shane McMahon beat everybody, I can almost believe that, because it is so ridiculous how bad this dude is. And he's on TV every week, and it's horrible, and there's nothing worse in wrestling right now.
Best wrestler, my notable mention, Shingo. That guy's so fucking good. Every time I see him, it feels like he's must watch these days, so I have to mention him in the best wrestler discussion. But, and I know it's so polarizing, but I don't see why it is, but from December 2018 until now, I think it's pretty clear. The best wrestler in the world is Will Ospreay. Like, every time I've seen him, always putting up bangers. And for him to do him versus Shingo and him versus Dragon Lee in the span of 3 or 4 days is pretty remarkable. So I don't think it's a question. I think Will Ospreay's the best.
Yeah, my runner-up is probably Phoenix because he's amazing. But I think I said this the last time I talked about Phoenix being the runner-up of wrestler of the year, is that he's kind of a dude who just floats around. He doesn't have the backing of a major promotion where he could be the guy, so it kind of puts him kind of in the shadows of other really good wrestlers. And I think that's kind of shitty, but that's kind of how it is. But yeah, Will Ospreay, definitely. I don't think there's anybody right now having a better year as far as like quality of wrestling goes.
And I think it's no hesitation because we don't follow that guy on Twitter or any social media, so maybe that's why we're so high on that guy. Yeah. I hear he's a dipshit, but in terms of like in-ring ability, that he's the best.
Yeah, I remember, it was after he had that Ricochet match. I was like, that guy's pretty good. And then I saw him shortly after live on ROH, and I was like, wow, this dude is like, he's going to be the guy soon. And I think right now he's pretty much the guy. I don't know if they're going to make him a heavyweight, but and I don't know how much his body can take of all this crazy shit he could do, but he's definitely the guy right now.
You think Kenny Omega is watching back in his gamer lair, just like salty that this dude kind of took his whole entire shit, samurai sword and all, and he might surpass his spot. What do you think?
He might. It's true. He might. And maybe it'll just motivate Kenny Omega. I don't know.
Next up, best and worst promotion. I have like nothing really to elaborate on. Worst WWE, best, like I said. I think the vibe is back with Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks departing. Never was that big of a fan, so New Japan so far to me has just been killing it.
Yeah, my worst is WWE. My best is a shocker. I was really thinking hard about it. And it's a promotion, quote-unquote promotion. I guess it's sort of a promotion. But they kind of came back this year, and it is my favorite thing in wrestling, and it's $5 wrestling, which is back on the High Spots Network. I love $5 wrestling. If you guys don't know what it is, this dude Jake Manning, who's also a wrestler, and I think he works for High Spots. Him and Colt Cabana and Marty DeRosa have this kind of like joke. I don't want to say it's a joke promotion, but basically it's a lot of wrestlers that are they're basically worth making about $5 when they wrestle a match. So that means they're not very good. It's they get a lot of characters in there, and I've been watching this. I was thinking about it today. I've been watching $5 wrestling for like 10 years now, and they took like a few year break, and I was like real bummed about it. I was like, man, there's no more $5 wrestling. This sucks. It's never coming back. And it finally came back. They did one, and I was like, that's just they're gonna do one, and it's just gonna not happen again. And they've been doing them pretty consistently. I think there's been 3 this year, and they just released one, and it's the best one they've done so far. I can't recommend $5 wrestling enough. It's something that I really want to go to live, even though I don't think it'll be the same because it doesn't have the Colt and Marty commentary and it doesn't have the Jake Manning interviews. But I really want to go live someday. Every single time I see that they're doing a show. I mean, first off, it's usually in like North Carolina or something, but it's something like it's just not doable for me. But one day I will be live in the crowd for $5 wrestling.
Is Freight Train still around, dude? Is he okay?
Oh, he's still a champ, yep.
Oh, shit. The last bullet point for this segment, surprises. The worst, or I guess notable mentions for the worst. That's Kairi Sane being promoted to SmackDown and then never showing up again. I guess not that big of a surprise, but still kind of a bummer to me. The worst surprise, though, this year so far is the MMA elbow strike being the most feared and devastating move amongst old-ass men. You got Jericho doing it. I think Shane McMahon might have done it. And then Tanahashi, like, I don't know if you saw the finish with him and Chase Owens, but whatever that was woof. That shit sucked. So I don't like this elbow strike movement at all.
Oh, man, I forgot I didn't write down this, and I forgot what my worst surprise was.
Motherfucker.
I'm trying to think. I'll do my best surprise, and maybe hopefully we can go back to my worst surprise. But my best surprise is that Jon Moxley, aka Dean Ambrose, kind of cleanly transitioned into just being another huge wrestler automatically. Like he quit. He somehow got a clean break. He quit. He made some video, and he's just like a main event wrestler in New Japan in like the span of a week. It seems like it was so quick. It's pretty. I think that shit like that happened all the time, like 20 years ago when the like WCW and ECW were around. But that doesn't really happen anymore. Usually, there's at least a little working on the indies before you rise back up to the top. So, yeah, that him just becoming like a just a Dean Ambrose level wrestler other places is pretty wild. So that's the biggest surprise for me, because I would have never guessed it would have been so seamless.
Yeah. Also, notable mentions for me: Moxley at AEW. That was pretty big. Hot intro. Also, New Japan. Seems like they're feeling him. The Kofi Kingston Road to WrestleMania storyline. That was shocking, if only because it wasn't on purpose, obviously. And Io Shirai's character just slowly turning into a love letter to ECW. That's one of the better surprises this year. But yeah, I think the best surprise to me was the G1 announcements at Dominion. Like, you got to see Shingo do it. You saw Moxley announce his him entering G1, and then Kenta came out all of a sudden, to everyone's surprise. So I thought that was pretty mind-blowing.
I can't think of what I had, but I'll just say my worst surprise was going to MLW and them doing surprisingly doing a cage match on the third match of the show that takes 45 minutes to set up. That was a horrible surprise, and I'm still scarred from it. They're doing a show here in a few weeks, and it has Dr. Wagner Jr. and his son on it, and I'm like, damn, that's enticing, but there's no fucking way they're getting me in that building again.
So next up, we're going to do some letter grades here. So first up,
10 topics. Let's start from the bottom up. Well, I guess it doesn't matter which way we go. Whatever.
We can go bottom to top if you want. It might make more sense.
Okay.
You want to lead off?
Sure.
Okay.
So we got 10 topics here. We're going to do some letter grades. Just, easy what we both think. First topic is wrestling journalism. Most of these topics carried over from last year. There's just a few replacements that just aren't applicable anymore. Wrestling journalism was last year. I do not remember what we said about it, but I'm gonna give it a C+. I think the actual wrestling journalism is satisfying to me, but what I don't like about it is there's a lot of people, I guess just on Twitter, probably not in real life, but a lot of people that are very serious about it, and like they want people to cite sources and they want facts, and they I don't know, they're like, they want this to be like if you were covering the president or something, and it's just wrestling. And I've always figured any kind of wrestling news was kind of like when you pick up Soap Opera Digest in the supermarket or something. Yeah. It's just like you take it with a grain of salt. It's fucking wrestling, man. It's the business of illusion. It's weird. It's weird to be like, I want facts. I want cold, hard sources, and I want them now. So that kind of sours me on it. Just the phrase wrestling journalism. But other than that, I think the stuff we have access to now is pretty good.
Dave Meltzer, he's still doing his thing, right, Mike?
Yep, that's true.
A+ for me. That guy's awesome. Emily Pratt, shout out to you. Love Best and Worst. Yeah, flying colors, A+.
Next up next up it's
what
did we decide the name was?
Wrestling's mainstream appeal.
Yes, wrestling's mainstream pop culture appeal, basically. How we feel about wrestling in the mainstream. I'm gonna give this a solid B+. I think it's pretty cool right now, for the most part, that wrestling gets mentioned in mainstream stuff, and it's not really nauseating. Back when wrestling hit its peak in the late 90s, you would see those documentaries like, did you know wrestling was fake? And it's just like, yeah, dude, I'm not a fucking toddler. I know it's fake. Why are you making documentaries about it? And it was just like real corny. It was just very obviously people trying to capitalize on shit. And it was just real corny. But at least now it's like you have John Oliver calling WWE out for being pieces of shit. Just stuff like people you would never think of mentioning New Japan Pro Wrestling and watching Wrestle Kingdom. And just crazy stuff like that is great. The only bad stuff I would say is like Forbes has like a wrestling column now. And the guy who writes it seems like he was a guy who never heard of wrestling until they said, hey, your new job is writing about wrestling, because this guy loves WWE. And I don't understand how else you could feel like that unless you just started watching wrestling like last year or something. So stuff like that's a little corny. And there's like a lot of shitty pricks out there that kind of suck, that get like mainstream press. Like, I don't know if I ever mentioned it on the show before, but I'm not a real big fan of Bix. And like I'll give him credit. He does Deadspin shit, and that's pretty wild to me that Deadspin would even want somebody to cover wrestling. So hats off to him for parlaying that into like a pretty mainstream kind of position. And I may not like his writing too much, but it's still pretty cool that they have a dedicated wrestling dude and haven't fired him yet.
For me, I wanted to give it an incomplete, but I'll go with the C+. I think that the Viceland shows about wrestling are pretty well done. And AEW getting a primetime slot in the fall doesn't hurt. But what I think does hurt is the forefront of wrestling just being so bad. Where I think, like, any entry-level person that sees wrestling is going to see Raw, and they're going to be like, this shit's stupid. So it's still kind of undecided for me.
Yeah, I forgot to mention the Vice shows. That's a real shock to me, because Vice is like, it's not even me. It's pretty much everybody. They kind of quickly pigeonholed themselves as the channel that just shows weed stuff in Action Bronson 24/7. Yeah. And so for them to like get into this true crime kind of seedy underworld of wrestling lane, and it's working. Like it's definitely Dark Side of Wrestling and the Wrestler Show are definitely their best shows they've done since Desus and Mero. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And I assume normal people are just kind of goaded into watching them, and that's pretty sweet too. Next category is wrestling podcasts. This is I don't really have much time anymore. My schedule's all weird because I'm unemployed, and I just have a weird life, so I don't really get to listen to too many podcasts anymore. So I can't really say. I'm just gonna say a solid C. I still think the bad ones are still out there. I think they're a little less frequency. I don't think as many people are picking up microphones anymore to go over Raw, like to recap Raw, and somehow make it double as long as the actual episode of Raw is. So that's cool. And I think the bigger podcasts are, they're still doing their thing. I do think there's a lot of vanilla podcasts out there where it's just like, how are these even still popular? Why would anybody want to listen to this anymore? But outside of that, I think it's fine. I think the bleeding has stopped as far as really shitty podcasts go.
I was going to say the landscape has like definitely changed from when we started, since we're such OGs now. Yeah. Where like all those podcasts kind of dropped off. And I think Garrett Gonzalez has been such a big addition to like Wrestling Observer Radio, where that show got like much better. So that Virtual Bros is still popping. Yeah. Shockingly, I was looking at the stats today and I was like, damn, people fucking really listen to this shit still, which is pretty nuts. Post wrestling's good. Wei Ting, read my DMs, dude. That's fucked up. But yeah, I gave this a B+.
Next up is 2019 Twitter opinions. I don't remember what we gave this last year, and I just listened to this episode yesterday, and I was like, I'm going to take. It was weird because it was right after I moved here, and it was before I started smoking weed again. So I'm talking so fast. I mean, it probably doesn't sound fast to the normal human being, but for me, I was just like, wow, I could tell I was not smoking weed here. So yeah, but outside of that, say fuck too much. There's a lot of fuck on this show. I don't like that. As an aside, it's weird how much I say fuck, because like if I see, again, another place where I'm a little conservative, if I see song lyrics and there's a lot of fuck in it, I'm just like, ugh, that is uncreative. So listening back and hearing how much I say fuck, it's just like, oh, I'm a terrible person. I should just jump off a bridge.
It's fucking Catcher in the Rye Mike over here.
I'm just saying, if not so much rap music, there's a lot of words. There's a lot of lyrics in rap music, so you get a little leeway. But when it's like a hardcore band and fuck is in every other line, it's like, dude, you're only saying 6 words per line. If you can't think of 2 syllables to put in there instead of fucking, maybe you should get a different job. So the fact that I say it so much is just, it's kind of sad. But anyways, 2019 Twitter opinions, the worst, the dirt worst. It's just every year it gets worse and worse. I'm making a conscious effort to just stop reading Twitter and just posting stuff and, read stuff from my friends. But outside of that, it's like, there's just so many people that are upset about wrestling and you can just stop watching it. And I just don't understand that mentality. If you find wrestling offensive and it triggers you and stuff, just don't watch it anymore. It's real simple. It's real simple to get a hobby that doesn't include so many fucked up individuals, basically.
I didn't think this year was all that bad compared to 2018. Like, 2018 was like a fucking banner year. You had fucking Helmet Chat. You had, why doesn't New Japan have women? You had all kinds of crazy shit. And I didn't really see like that level of like stupidity on Twitter, at least this year. Aside from the dude who went to Stardom and chanted for like 9 hours straight. Or,
dude, Vince Russo.
That was hot.
Vince Russo is currently trying to say that AEW and WWE are working together. And there's definitely people out there that believe them. They're probably not on our timeline, but they're definitely out there.
I haven't seen it, so it doesn't exist to me. I mean, it was that, and it was like, people were super in their feelings about Kenta going to New Japan. Like, Doug, like, he left like half a decade ago. Like, no one changed their colors. Like, let that man raise his family, man. That shit was crazy. So I gave this a C. It wasn't that crazy, but there was still some pretty dumb shit on Twitter.
Next up is wrestling merchandise. I'm gonna go with a C for this. Oddly enough, I think WWE is doing a little better job. They don't have as many embarrassing shirts anymore. I mean, that whole American flag line that they put out for, I assume for 4th of July is a little embarrassing, but they were really hitting it out of the park last year with embarrassing shirts. And I also think people who, make their own shirts that aren't part of wrestling, were really hitting it out of the park with really bad shirts last year. And this year, I still think too many people are making shirts, and I don't need all these shirts, but the quality has gone up all around. I think even the people I don't like that make shirts, I think their shirts even look a lot better than they did last year. It's just I don't have the need for them. But so a C. I still think there's too many, and WWE and the bigger companies still do a lot of bad shirts. But I don't think it's. I think there's a little more hit to miss ratio than there was last year, basically.
For me, I can't even be mad. I give this an A+. Vintage-wise, I got some shit, Mike. I got a fucking skydiving J poster, got a Barely Legal tee, FMW 5595 and M-Pro these days on VHS. But like new shit, like the Okada Rainmaker gun dropped. You got a Hana Kimura Graver book. In a span of a month, you got the Wrestler Shibata snapback from New Era. It's been a pretty good year, 2019. Stash pages, I want you to tell them. A+ from me.
Next is U.S. independent wrestling and all Japan wrestling that's not New Japan wrestling. I'm going to give this a solid A+. I think we are at our peak where not only can you cancel WWE wrestling, but you have way too many choices outside of WWE where you can pick 2 or 3 things and be a dedicated fan and not have to go digging for it. And you can just have it on your computer once a week. Or you can, I think, most parts of the civilized country have wrestling you could, at the very least, travel an hour to see. That's decent. It's not just bullshit shit in like a flea market anymore. So that's pretty cool too. So I can't imagine it could get much better for people who like wrestling outside of mainstream wrestling as it is right now.
I gave this an A, if only because on Friday, Kaz Hayashi of Jung Dragons fame, of M-Pro fame, he's going to be in Oakland. What the fuck? So 2019 is pretty crazy to me. I know WrestleMania weekend was also pretty entertaining. The AIW show was really good. I saw a man get scissors stuck in his fucking chest. That was nuts. So overall, I guess in terms of like other Japanese promotions, Stardom's been pretty good. All Japan, take it or leave it. I haven't seen any Dragon Gate. If you have any good Dragon Gate, link me. But I can't complain. It was an A.
Next up is AEW, which is obviously a new thing because there was no AEW last year. They've only had one official show, even though they've kind of been a thing since last September or August. And I'm gonna give them another B+. I'm gonna go A-, even though B+ is the same thing as A-. A- sounds a little better. They sold out their stupid show, and they actually pulled that show off. The only thing that was kind of shitty was the Battle Royal, which was kind of weird and not great, but it's also Battle Royal. And as much as I like that match type as a kid, I'm getting to be sick of it. And I think it's kind of bad. It's getting kind of bad now that I'm not a little kid. But outside of that card was, there was nothing to me that I was like, oh man, this is like my favorite thing ever. For the blood factor, Dustin and Cody was pretty good. But they set out to have like a show that would catch people's eyes, and they did it, and they got the ball rolling. So I think they're, they can only go down from here. I
also gave AEW B+. I don't think anyone thought that show was bad. I think people were generally entertained. They got that TV deal. I will say, those fucking pay-per-view names that they're giving these shows, they're kind of whack. What the fuck is Fyter Fest? What is that?
It's supposed to be a playoff Fyre Fest, though.
Oh,
remember that documentary from 2 months ago? And 2 months now seems like 3 years ago, so...
I give AEW a D now. That's fucking stupid. But, I mean, I was talking to Mike and other people about AEW, and I think, like, one of the biggest appeals for me is that this could be one of, like, the better mid-card rosters we've seen, like, in wrestling in quite some time. I want to see some fucking Seema Nobunaga. I want to see those fucking OWE guys. It could be a good time. B+.
Next up is NXT. I'm going to also give them a B+. I do remember what I said last year, and that kind of still rings true this year. And that is, they never put on a bad takeover show. That's never ever going to happen. They have a streak of, like, I don't even know, like 20 in a row that were good. The last kind of mediocre one was the one in England, and that was like years ago now. And since then, they've all been home runs. It's just that I have really no interest in watching the television anymore. They have too many people that are just kind of in NXT when, I mean, it's developmental. It's not like they can have too many people technically, but they do. They sort of have too many people. Maybe they need 2 NXT shows. I don't know, but it's just a little too much to keep track of than it was in the good old days. But still, really great takeovers, and that's all you could really hope for. You get 4 of those a year, 4 or 5 of those a year, and that's worth the price of the admission, as they would say.
Same exact thing Mike said. B+. Those takeover shows, I always think this could be the one where it's kind of whack, but sure enough, they always just hit it out of the park.
Yeah.
But yeah, I never watch the TV anymore. There was an NXT episode today. I just forgot. It's Wednesday, though, and I haven't watched it, even though Io Shirai's supposed to be on. But yeah, it just kind of feels like they're running in place. I will drop everything to watch TakeOver, though, but the TV and, like, the storylines, I mean... Also, I'm not too invested in Johnny Gargano and Adam Cole, I'll admit. Not my biggest thing. But, I mean, the shows are really good, the main shows at least. B+.
Yeah, I think, Dave Meltzer said how the TakeOver shows are kind of just like PWG light or something like that. And I think they're actually better than PWG, because the thing I don't like about PWG is that they do too much crazy wrestling. Like, it's just every single move twice. And I think TakeOver is like that, except a little muted. And I think that makes it the perfect speed for me. But yeah, it's great. It's just, I wish they could do something to make the TV a little more must watch, but that's just a small nitpick. And New Japan Pro Wrestling, second to last. I'm not as high on it as Al, but I'm gonna give them a B. I think they lost a little traction. They obviously lost Kenny Omega. I think Tanahashi is getting to be an old broken down piece of meat. The stuff like that. Jay White being kind of at the top of the card is weird. Like I said, Jericho's starting to wear out his welcome. So I think there's little cracks in the armor here and there, but it's still pretty good. And as of right now, I'm pretty pumped for the next 6 months of New Japan. So a B for me.
A-, man. They were kind of shaky with the Kenny Omega departure, but I mean, Best of the Super Juniors, Dominion, I don't know. They're on a roll right now, so A- for me. I think the vibe is back, like it said.
And of course, last is WWE, which is probably going to be a big old F. And it's, again, pretty wild listening back from last year and just saying things like how bad WWE is and how there's no way it could get any worse. And this is the worst it's ever been. Man, I was wrong. It's so much worse right now than it was last year. Man, they really haven't had a run of horribleness like this since the early to mid 90s, basically. I think even that weird period in the 2000s when maybe kind of like everybody stopped watching wrestling, I think it was still pretty good. It was just no one was watching it because we kind of were over wrestling. So this is like bad wrestling and bad storylines and just too many people that don't do anything on the show. And then people like Baron Corbin and Shane McMahon being all up in the videos. So yeah, it's the Saudi Arabia thing, which is super sketchy, and them just having horrible matches there. It's really maybe an all-time peak of horribleness, and that is it almost makes it kind of interesting to watch, but I don't know.
I think I gave this an F last year too. And I don't know why I'm going higher. I gave it a D-. Well, I guess I know why. Like, some credence has to be given for the Becky Lynch and Kofi Kingston run. So I think I give them credit there. But overall, I haven't tuned into Raw on the cable box. I haven't even tried to illegally stream it. Like, I do not care for Raw or SmackDown anymore. Even the big shows, like Stomping Ground, just on the logo alone, I am not going to watch that shit. You know what? F. WWE is awful these days. I'll go for it. Next up, the world famous mixtape with Lucha Libre. Heavy Lucha Libre this episode. And the 25th anniversary of what some people say is the best wrestling match of all time. Please stay tuned.
I hope you read every line.
Hello?
To this message in these trying times.
1, 2, 1, 2. Oh,
baby, we gon' make it in the midnight hour when you sleep. I hope you dream me. I hope you dream of me. Or in the midnight hour when you creep. Every piece of me, my baby. No matter the distance, we share the same existence. Perfect timing, it measures. We will be together. I know you think that I'm too young, but I know I know what he's doing. Oh my girl, say it again. I know you think that I'm too young, but I know what he's doing. Hope you read every line. To this message in these trying times.
And we're back with Vrtl Pros, episode 89. Last segment, the mixtape. If you haven't already, track it down on YouTube. Type in Vrtl Pros mixtape. It'll pop right up. I'm really loving the organization of this mixtape now, Mike. All the newest matches are on top. It's the way to live. We're doing 3, but there's a reason for it. The first match of the night, I picked this. It's Laredo Kid versus El Hijo de Vikingo, AAA 6/9/2019. Like I had said, the lucha influence on this episode is pretty strong. I'm not mad at it. I'm never really mad at it. So we should just go to Mexico, dude. I'm very curious. Like, Arena Mexico always looks really fucking nuts, so I would be down to go. Like, I only know Laredo Kid really from the AIW podcasts, where I think John was saying, like, he walks around Cleveland with his mask on at all times. Mm-hmm. And I guess he's known at the Chinese buffet in Cleveland for just pulling the stunt where he just doesn't take off his mask.
Also known for completely disappearing.
That too. And I only know Vikingo through the Vrtl Pros mixtape, but apparently he's the next guy in wrestling, so I can see it. There was some chatter that this match was better than the BOSJ final, and those people are wrong, but they're not that wrong. I wouldn't fist fight them or anything. This match was like, to me, essentially, yo, check out these software updates for the Spanish Fly, and I'm okay with that. I like the Spanish Fly a lot. This match was kind of laid out though, like a US indie match more than like a lucha match that we've seen on this show. And, I'm not mad at that as well. There was like a nice little mat work section, and then it picks up to like, the near falls, which was pretty exciting. I think everyone on Twitter saw the GIF where Laredo Kid and, Vikingo, they met at the top rope, and then Vikingo hit a Spanish Fly. And that might be one of the most mind-bending moves I've ever seen in wrestling. It might be worth watching, this match for that spot alone. I think overall this match was about 17, 18 minutes. There was no lulls in this match. It was a banger. I like this a lot. What'd you think?
Yeah, Dave Meltzer was pumping this match up as being possibly the best Mexican match of the year. And so I had to see it. The way this particular YouTube upload was ripped, it's kind of like where the frame rate's a little shaky, so it looks like you're watching like old-timey 1920s film or something. But outside of that...
I got a lesson in Twitch because I was just like, I gotta find a better like frame rate for this. And sure enough, for Twitch, if you want to watch this match in like, in excellent quality, you gotta pay $4.99 a month. I don't think I'm gonna do that.
Yep. There's a way to do it through Amazon Prime, but I just, like, by the time I'm like, I gotta figure that out, I've already lost interest. So, one of these days I'll figure out how to do it through Amazon Prime. Anyways, one of the things that makes this match great is the announcers are absolutely losing it.
Yes.
They're just, this is the most pumped I've ever heard, Mexican wrestling announcers, I think. And they are just absolutely losing it over this match. Laredo Kid does this Asai moonsault where he kind of, it's like that video game move where you kind of like double jump. So he does like the move, he springboards off the ropes, and while he's like mid backflip, he hops his legs out like a frog. Like, I don't know how to explain that move. It's pretty crazy. He has one of the really great Asai moonsaults. I think Vikingo would probably benefit from, I think last episode I said that he was on, I said he would probably benefit from wearing like a crazy mask. This episode I'm saying he would benefit from, wearing a more breathable outfit. His outfit looks really heavy and constricting, and think of it, this guy is already insanely flawless with his, acrobatics. So think of how even more aerodynamic he would be if he was wearing a more form-fitting outfit that didn't let him breathe a little, but whatever. As Al noted, there's the Spanish Fly where Laredo Kid is running from outside of the ring, and Vikingo is inside the ring running towards the ropes, and I don't know. It is something you need to see this. It's something you definitely need to stop everything and just see this one move if you haven't, because it's one of those things that seems like it could go horribly wrong, and they just hit it perfectly. It's pretty amazing. I feel like it's crazy because so we've talked about Lucha Libre before and how some of it just doesn't click with us. I think a lot of these matches where it's just insane acrobatics, it's crazy. They do so much stuff that looks like it should be super dangerous, but it just doesn't look dangerous when they do it for some reason. As opposed to something like New Japan Juniors and Will Ospreay, who they do dangerous stuff, but it also looks really, really dangerous. These guys just do it so effortlessly that it's almost like a hindrance, where it should look like they're struggling a little more to do this stuff, which I think is Vikingo's biggest weakness. Is he really needs to like work on his selling, because he's pretty stone-faced when he's doing these moves, but he's also very stone-faced when he's supposed to be in pain and stuff, and it's just kind of like, that's really what's holding him back from that next level, I think. So I think if he was in America more, where I think that's like something that people concentrate on more, he'd probably get a little better at it. But as of now, yeah, it's just crazy. They do all this dangerous shit, and it's like they hardly show pain or anything. So it's kind of weird to watch, basically. My final note is I don't even know what to call Laredo Kid's finisher. It's basically another kind of version of the Spanish Fly, but like when you're holding the whole guy's body, and it's pretty crazy too. That is a crazy finisher that you probably can't do with everybody. I don't think you could do that with a man that's over 5'5" and over 200 pounds, but it's pretty fucking wild. Highly recommended to see this match. The next up is Pentagon Jr. versus Array. I don't know. I'm gonna fucking butcher it. I don't know, but it's either Ares or Arrays. This is from High Spots. I believe this is from around 2014. It was, I think, a little before Pentagon Jr. became kind of a guy in America. High Spots uploaded this match, and it has like this weird title where it's just like Pentagon Jr. rare footage, and they don't even like say the other guy's name, which I think is kind of shitty. You guys are like a wrestling company. I love High Spots, but I think you could do a little work there and find this dude's name. Like, he's fucking killing himself in this match. At least you could do is put his name out there. I think a few people helped me with like tracking down this dude's name and like the background of this match. Ed Blair, I don't know if he listens to the show, but I know he does like a bunch of wrestling zines. He helped. A couple other people helped, including Arrays himself, or Ares. He's the one who told me that this is supposed to be like a mask versus title match. So, spoiler alert, you know who wins this based on that, because Pentagon still has a mask. As I said in a couple episodes ago, it would be very detrimental if he did not have a mask, because he looks like a very normal man without a mask and not like a scary skeleton dude. And yeah, they told me like the promotions and everything. I've since forgotten about that, but I do remember this is from 2014, and it's from some kind of like hardcore, like extreme Mexican extreme promotion or something like that. It's very extreme shit. So this is, it's not, I wouldn't say it's a full on death match, but it's definitely a very hardcore match. This is a good match to play the game Guess What This Venue Is, because I have no idea what the initial purpose for this venue was. It kind of looks like a very large garage, not so much a parking garage, but almost a parking garage, but smaller. I don't know. It's definitely do you have any insight? What do you think this building could be?
This has to be a discoteca for sure, dude. People dance here.
Okay. Garage, discotheque. What are you going to do? So yeah, this is a match with weapons happening, and Pentagon is covered up way too much. He is wearing more clothes than usual at this point, but he makes up for it later, spoiler alert, and he takes his shirt off. So then he gets into it. The crowd, again, another super hype crowd in this match. And I don't think it's so much because of the sheer capacity of people there, but I think it's just because it's a handheld and you're getting that real raw audio of people losing it and the horns going off and shit. And like as Al said a little while ago, Mexican crowds are always the best crowds. And this is my ultimate, like if every wrestling show could be like this, it would be great. I would love to see wrestling in Mexico in a discotheque / parking garage where people are just losing it and there's horns all over the place. That was the only one good thing about that MLW show. It had like kind of that vibe, but not like maybe like 10% of that vibe. But it was still enough. So I may be full of shit here. So this might be something where I'll get called out, but I am pretty sure that when people use light tubes in matches in wrestling, there is a specific light tube they use, and I'm pretty positive about that. What might be complete bullshit is I think there is a specific type because it's not as shitty to hit yourself with, because I think maybe it's like thinner glass or I don't know, some kind of science shit. These are not those light tubes. These are like these weird light tubes I've never seen in a wrestling match before. They're longer and thinner than the kind of light tubes you would normally see in any death match you've ever seen in your life. And I think that's bad. I think these guys are using the wrong light tubes that fuck you up more. And so that, even if that is complete bullshit, it made this match feel a little more dangerous to me. Because if you notice, the shards of glass sticking out of Arez's back at the end are way bigger than any shards of glass you see in American death matches, and he's bleeding way more considering, I don't know. Again, I may be full of shit, but to me, it just seems like these are the dangerous light tubes you're not supposed to be using in matches. I'll already put it on our Instagram, but there is a hell of a chair shot in this match. Maybe a top 10 all-time chair shot. Just, oh boy, I don't want to ruin it for you, but man, oh man, that was a hell of a moment in this match. The Arez is wearing a shirt that I assume it's his own shirt. I don't know for a fact, but it just says Mexico Strong Style on it. And this is from 2014, and I didn't know people already started bastardizing that term back then. But it's pretty wild to think that it was back then people were just putting anything strong style in front of anything. But I will give him a pioneer award for probably being one of the first to do it, even though I'm not exactly sure they know what that term means, or really anybody knows what it means. But and finally, Pentagon slaps Arez for real. Like, he just slaps the shit out of him as if you were just gonna slap somebody in real life because you were sick of their shit. He for real slaps this dude, and it was, again, it's a slap, but it was pretty brutal because it was a real ass slap. And this is a high recommendation for me. This is a great match. I love it. I'm very glad High Spots uploaded it. I just wish they would fix the title.
I am so glad you got into light tube science talk, because I think it was Righteous Jesse. I was listening to his show. And he had talked about how the skinnier light tubes are actually like way sharper glass-wise and way more dangerous than the ones you regularly see like on GCW. So like there's like some extra ghoul oomph for me on these bumps, dude. Like later on in the match, you start to see Arez's like deep blood, for lack of a better phrase, on his arm. So like, dude, do not use these skinny light tubes. I don't know. I mean, maybe you want to for Ghoul Summer, it's fine, but like they're really fucking each other up. It's so funny, too, because the referee, he's not wearing any gloves.
Nope.
And he has to make these fucking 3 counts. And, like, is this fucking amateur hour? For better or for worse, I guess. I guess it would have been funny if, like, Pentagon and Arez did some Eddie Guerrero versus Dean Malenko rapid-fire pin shit just to fuck with this guy. But, I noticed that, like, immediately. And I was like, man, those guys, that ref's hands, they're fucked up. But, yeah, Mike talked about it. Arez, he does this tope con hilo, and Pentagon, he throws this chair like fucking Steve Nash in a skills competition, pinpoint chest accuracy into this dude's head while he's turning. Like, and the crowd, like, they all, like, put their hands on their mouths, and one, Henny Omega, did that too, and there's this guy in a blue shirt, his arms are crossed, and he's like, yeah, that's what I like. And it was so crazy. What a moment in this match. But yeah, like, the more shards of glass I see flying around, the more I want Mike to apologize to Bix for essentially wearing a hazmat suit to these shows, man. Because, like, I don't know, man. This looks way fucked up. But yeah, Mike talked about it. This dude was wearing a Mexico Strong style shirt. That's pretty stupid. However, move over Lucharesu, La Lucha Extrema. That's the new king. This is a must recommend. What a kickoff to Ghoul Summer. This shit was horrifying. The last match of the night, you might have heard of it. Mitsuharu Misawa versus Toshiaki Kawada, 6/3/94, the 25th anniversary of what some may say is the best match of all time. So 6/3/2019, I think this article dropped from Fightful, written by Tim Livingston, and he goes into the mythos of 6/3/94 and how the tape trading community essentially championed this match as the best of all time. So if you haven't already, I highly recommend reading it, whether or not you've seen the match. It provides a pretty detailed layout of how layered this match is. And it also makes me realize that I've always watched this match in a vacuum, sort of. So that's why, like, I've always been kind of hesitant to, like, give this match, like, the best of all time title. Because I didn't catch on to the Easter eggs. Like, apparently, like, Misawa made it a point to work this guy Kawada's leg because it got fucked up last year, like, in the Real World Tag League. But then, like, it goes even deeper because I guess, like, in 1988, Stan Hansen and Terry Gordy fucked up Kawada's leg so bad that he had to, like, stay out and get counted out. So, like, I can appreciate the layers, but, like, 1988, I was 4, so, like, I didn't catch on to this fucking Easter egg when it happened. With that said, like, what I do appreciate about this match is as follows. The entrances in All Japan, to me, are second to none, especially with this match, and, like, I could be completely wrong here, but I kind of feel like All Japan, they pioneered that shot of, like, recording a dude coming out from backstage all the way into the ring. And that always made a match feel pretty big time. Also, there's some good ear blood in this match. I know CZW fans, he's always talking about how arm gigging freaks him out. But I always think when someone's cauliflower ear gets fucked up, it always makes me think like brain matter's falling out of that guy's head. So when Misawa has the ear blood, I got freaked out about it. And then Kawada, firing up on Misawa towards the end in the corner with those kicks. And then Misawa just answering back with one forearm. I was like, okay, this is pretty good. With that said, I've watched this match like 3 times, like once in high school. I think maybe like again, like 2 or 3 years ago when the podcast was picking up steam. And then on 6/3/2019. And I do have to say that this match gets better every time I watch it. With that said, Mike, is this the best match of all time?
I don't know. It's tough. I've seen this match several times, and it's definitely up there. I think I didn't really take any notes this time because I've seen it so much and people have talked about it so much. But well, one thing I will say is that the video that I watched at least. I think Al has the VHS copy. So
yes, I do.
But the video on YouTube that most popularly pops up when you search for this does not have the entrances, and that does kind of lose a little. It's really crazy because those entrances are like, they're never in like a really ornate place or very even like athletic, sportful looking place. They're just in like the back room of somewhere, waiting to come out, and it looks really cool. And I don't think you could do that in so many places. Like, you can't do that on an indie show and just see these dudes coming out of like the boys' bathroom or something like that. Like, it doesn't have the same dramaticness to it. They did it with the women's matches too. I don't know if that was All Japan Women, but the women's matches had it too. And it looks so fucking cool. Sometimes they are in like real arena looking places, but so you do kind of miss a little of that, the drama with that missing from the YouTube video, but maybe you could just borrow Al's VHS. As far as being the best match, after watching it again, I feel like there's definitely a contingent of people, probably a lot of people that would cite, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre as the best horror movie, and it's a good pick, and I like it a lot, but it's from 1974, and it's kind of like, it's kind of like in the middle where, I think around 1972 is when you could start getting like watchable violent horror movies, basically. Before 1972, most of it is just kind of like whatever. It's kind of pussy shit, if you want to be frank. It's, it's not like really bloody. It's not like really twisted. It's just kind of like horror. There are some like Italian movies from back then, which is where I think, Texas Chainsaw Massacre and everything else got its influence. But basically, Texas Chainsaw Massacre has always been lauded since I was like a fucking 8-year-old boy as the end all be all of horror movies. And, you get that drilled in your head, and then you finally see it, and you're like, I don't think there's like one drop of blood in the whole movie. It's, there's a lot of just like suggestive gore and violence in the movie, and it never really happens. It's just this like really gritty, fucked up looking movie. And that's kind of how it holds its appeal, and it's like this big honor, because it has this feeling to it. And, I think the Masao Kawada match has that kind of same deal, and a little more loosely All Japan from that era as a whole. So I think if you view it like that, I would never make an argument about if somebody said this was the greatest match of all time, because it's definitely up there. It's definitely a pace you have to be ready to sit down and enjoy, because if you don't enjoy that pace, you're going to hate it or say it's bad or whatever. But it's one of the most realistic portrayals of wrestling that I think you could see, but I guess I would say the most realistic without going over the top. Like, it's just on the edge of going over the top into, okay, this is obviously fake. Outside of doing like shoot fights and shit like that, or like UWF style stuff. But as far as actual professional wrestling goes, this is like paced as if these moves were really devastating, but not, in real life they would obviously kill you if people like these moves are real. But they have the devastation, but it's still slow. It's not like now when they're doing 50 of each of these moves in one match. So if you're not ready for that pace, I could also see your argument if you say this is not the best match. For me, I think this is the best type of that match, where if I'm in the mood to watch this kind of match, it's definitely the best. It's, I think Texas Chainsaw Massacre is the best of that kind of early generation of horror. But I think once you get into the 80s, I don't like it as much as I like the horror movies of the 80s. And it's kind of how I feel about this match, basically.
What I am curious about now is that I think the modern 6-3-94, the match that everyone can't really complain about, is Okada versus Shibata. I kind of wonder, I haven't watched it since it aired. I wonder if that's better than 6-3-94. I might have to rewatch that back.
That match it's pretty good. So, yeah. But that's, again, it's just a different type because they're doing so much more. Shibata almost really did die from it. They're not supposed to kill each other from it, but yeah, that's definitely a different kind of pace. It's still a little, it's not like fucking Lucha Libre or anything, but, I think that holds up. Obviously, Kenny Omega and Okada hold up. I think a lot of this other shit that now Dave Meltzer is just commonly giving over 5 stars to is, maybe won't hold up as much. I don't think we're going to look back at this, Gargano Adam Cole feud in 10 years and be like, oh man, I love that. Like, that's really still above 5 stars. I don't think that's going to work out.
I will say, man, this could have benefited from just at least one Canadian destroyer. Just one. I thought that it could have used that. Kawada could have pulled it out with that. I don't know. Just me. That was... go ahead.
No, I guess, fine. I think over the years, the power bomb feels less and less devastating than it did definitely the first time I saw this. And I think now the power bomb just almost seems like a transition move. So that's another thing you have to, like, maybe in 2019, you have to hold your suspension of disbelief and have to remember that at that time, the power bomb really was the most devastating move in wrestling.
Also the elbow. Man, how the mighty have fallen. From Misawa to fucking Chris Jericho, man. Shit's disgusting. That was episode 89 of That World Champion Sound. Hit us. Twitter, Instagram, iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, virtualpro64@gmail.com. Hit us up there as well. Hey, Mike, I'm kind of on the fence on who to bet on tomorrow. You got the Raptors, you got the Warriors.
I think the Raptors are going to do it, man.
I fucking hope so, dude. I fucking hope so. Drake, I see you. 90, holy shit, in 2 weeks. See you soon.